fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio.
Most are afraid of unknown depths, skirting shores thinking world flat. I'm with the island girls in celebration of new religion. Nobody led me or said this way. I sailed alone on makeshift raft with wind as companion. Fate for deliverance, confidence enough to assess new disposition. Seekers of lost paradise may seem fools to those who never sought the other world. Welcome to Momentary Zen with Zen Garcia. Visit www.fallenangels.tv. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
Hey everyone, a big shalom out there. I see a lot of you already in the chat, which is awesome. We're looking forward to the study today. If you guys could say a quick prayer, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with Zen's mic. So if you could please pray for that, and I will do a little introduction. This is Lisa George. I am going to be co-hosting with Zen today, and we are starting a brand new book to review after finishing up the Revelation of the Magi last week. So we really look forward to diving into this book that is published by Sacred Word Publishing, and Zen actually put this one together. I'm hoping that a lot of you already have this. If you don't have the Great Commission Part 3, you can go directly to sacredwordpublishing.com, go to the bookstore. There's a series of 3, Great Commission 1, 2, and 3 in a bundle, and I would highly recommend getting that. But if you'd like to read along with us today, you can get your copy there. And we'll be going through this book, and actually everyone voted on this book for the next one that we review. We had announced that we were going to do He Walked the Americas last week, but we forgot about the poll that Justin and Zen put together for YouTube listeners to vote and see which book they wanted us to review next. So we thought, oh, we've got to do this one first, especially with everything going on in the world today. Zen and I agreed this information is so important and so pertinent to what we're experiencing now as we're moving closer and closer to the tribulation that has been in prophecy for thousands of years. And the books that are contained within this particular book that Zen put together, the Great Commission 3, when somebody asked Zen several years ago, I can't remember who it was that asked him, but they asked Zen, out of all the books that you've published, if you could choose just one to take with you through the tribulation, guess which one he said? It's this one. So I really think this is important. I would highly encourage all of you, if you don't have this Great Commission Part 3 already, to go over to the bookstore and get that. And they can get that shipped out to you so you can participate in our study for the next few months, because this one is just packed with so much information. There's so many books contained within this manuscript. And I wanted to read over the table of contents, actually, just to give you an idea of how much is in here. And if you do have this book, go ahead and take it out, get your pen out, and take some notes, because Zen is going to give us some amazing information about these books. Brother Zen, is your mic available to work yet? Did you want to interject anything here? Because if not, I'm going to go ahead and read the table of contents. Brother Zen, are you there? Okay, it looks like he's still having some issues with his mic, but he will come on as soon as he gets those resolved. And in the meantime, wanted to go ahead and read the table of contents, which is on page 3 in the copy of the book that I have. And I got the hardback just because I want them to last a long time. And my husband, Noble, prefers having hardback as opposed to paper copies. They just last longer, and it's done very well. As you can see from the picture that Justin put up on the thumbnail for YouTube, that's a picture of the front cover of this one. And it is amazing. It's just... I've read through this so many times, and I've used it so much to study and to teach, and so I would highly encourage everyone to get yourself a copy. So this is a table of contents. The first book in here, and these are all books, ancient manuscripts that Sacred Publishing has researched and have read through many times before they decided how to group them into these bundles of books. And so Zen has put this together himself. The first one is Apocalypse of Abraham, Apocalypse of Moses, the 14th vision of Daniel, the Apocalypse of Elijah, the Hebrew Apocalypse of Elijah, the 4th book of Ezra, which is also known as Second Esdras, the Apocalypse of Shadrach, the Sibylline Oracles, book 2, the Apocalypse of Zephaniah, the Apocalypse of Baruch, the Apocalypse of Thomas, the Apocalypse of Peter, the first Apocalypse of James, the second Apocalypse of James, the Apocalypse of Paul, the Revelation of St. John the Theologian, which is one of my personal favorites, the 10 signs of the end of the age, the Apocalypse of Samuel, the Apocalypse of Zerubbabel, and the Vision of Adaman. So if any of those titles or all those titles sound awesome to you, please go get your copy today. We're going to be doing an introduction here to this book, not just with the table of contents, but Zen has also sent me a manuscript that he wanted me to read for everyone to have an introduction that, let me check here just a second here. All right. So continue to keep Zen in prayer. He's still having some technical difficulties. And Zen, if you can hear me, I did get your messages, and yeah, he's not able to hear video, and he's having some real issues with his mic. So I'm going to keep going and just continue to pray that his mic will work so that we can continue the study. But if anything, I can read the Apocalypse of Abraham after I read his cool introduction that he sent me from the, I'll be reading from the Thracian book of Navi as an introduction here. And this is chapter 8 from that particular manuscript. And this is one that has not been published yet. Zen is currently working on this. I think that Noble was planning to work with Zen on getting this published, and working with the translator they have from the Thracian manuscripts. Part of it is in Hebrew, which is why, but this is a very ancient manuscript that is not even available in writing yet. And so this chapter 8 is called Repentance and Retribution. And I'm going to give this as an introduction that Zen wanted me to read, as he's still having some technical difficulties. So I'm going to start here with verse 1. After King Navka'a returned to his forefathers, his place was inherited by his son Tozort, also known as Zoser, the great son of Great Father. He built the first pyramid in Hemi, which is also known as Egypt. His brother, Umhotis, also known as Imhotep, inherited the wisdom and the secret knowledge of his father. He was a regent of his brother Tozort in all his deeds and the laws of Hemi, which is Egypt. And I'm going to skip down here to verse 7 that Zen has highlighted. The hungry children were screaming in their mother's hands. The elderly knelt in the dust, waiting for death from the famine. Even the wealthy were suffering from poor food and despair, and there was no relief from anywhere. Even the temples were closed due to the lack of contributions and God's altars, and the holy places were abandoned. No one from the king's advisors had an answer to what should be done to make the situation better until the answer came from the wise oracle Imhotep. He says, I will go to inquire for an answer from the ancient book, which the godly words, and he's referring to Enoch's complete doctrine of wisdom, which is kept in the temple of life. For sure, it is written in this book, which is the spring of the river Nile, and what are the gods' powers which control the levels of the waters. If I found the exact words of power from the divine speech, which Lord God alone pronounced and command the course and the current, then definitely the balance will be restored and the desolate land will be revived. And when he went into the temple of the word of God, Imhotep began looking for the right words written in the book of life, as in God's word, only he had the wisdom given to him from above to read and understand. He spent many days gazing at the holy letters and lines, looking for an answer about everything which controlled the river of life. He found the texts he was looking for, and he found the reasons for the disasters in the land, and how he could bring back the fertility of the land and the balance of the world. He appeared with boldness before King Tozort, and he revealed to him the following: "My brother, far away in the upper land, in the midst of the waters of the river Nile, is located an island, and the city called Eleph. It is the one whose foundations are the most ancient on the island, because this city was established on the top of the first earth mound, which rose from the dark waters of the flood. The hills which protect the city were from red and black granite, and abound with gold, silver, diamonds, emeralds, rubies, jasper, and carnelian. There is a temple in the heart of the city, which is called the Joy of Life. Deep under the temple are located the springs of the river of life, which is the Nile, which comes out from two caves immediately when the time for the rising of the waters comes. They received power from the reservoirs of God, the Creator himself, who made the man from clay, and he sculpted him as the potter sculpts his vessel on the potter's wheel. The God of our fathers, he is the one who gives the water of life, and he makes the river of life to water the whole world. He holds the keys for death and for Hades and for the two wombs which open the fertility of the land. Yes, he is the only master of the wheat and the barley, of the fruit and the vegetables, of the trees and the flowers, of the birds, the fish, and all the animals, and the whole nature is like a beautiful attire to him. Only upon him depends the prosperity of Himas, or Himus, Turkey, and Hemi, which is Egypt, and the whole world. When King Tozart heard this word, he was very delighted that in the borders of his kingdom exists such a holy and strong place. Immediately he opened the books containing the rituals and the mysteries to find among them the ones which honor the great God, the Creator, who created the first atom. He is the one who sculpted everything visible and invisible with his mighty hand, and who has the keys of the springs of life and death and the whole of nature. In order to gain favor from God, he restored the ancient rites and spent a whole week in liturgical services and processions to the holy places, accompanied by many of the priests of God, the sun-giving Isus, and by the oracle Imhotep himself. On the eve of the great feast, consecration of the waters, while he was in his bed, in his dream to him appeared the image of God's Lamb, God, the Creator himself, and he was standing next to his bed. King Tozart immediately jumped out of bed and quickly bowed down to God and kissed the ground in front of his feet. Then God spoke to him like he was speaking to a friend. "I am the God of your fathers and the Creator of the whole of humanity. My right hand supports and affirms your kingdom. Didn't I give you the whole Hemi, or Egypt, which is rich in gold, precious stones, grain, and every other goods? Why then are my temples left without contributions, and my priests are forced to close them and to starve? Don't you know that when my temples are closed, then the springs for the rivers are also closed, and when my priests are starving, the whole nation is destined to starve? Why then are my holy places abandoned, as are the liturgical services? The nation which abandons its God and the liturgical services also abandons its own prosperity. But because you have chosen wisdom since your childhood, and you interceded for the whole nation, And in the day of a disaster, you called on my name, and you restored the ancient services in my temples, because you honored my holy priests and my holy places. For this, here I am opening my treasures for you and for the whole nation, and the reservoirs of my living waters will open to water abundantly the land, and the level of the river of life will rise to the measure of abundance. And there won't be famine and death any longer, but comfort and abundance in the whole kingdom. Here I make everything new. And when God said these words, the vision faded and disappeared. King Tozert woke up joyful and grateful to God that he forgave his people, and he would bless again his country with fertility and abundance. So that such a calamity never happens again, King Tozert ordered a full recovery of all the temples, holy places, all liturgical services, and mysteries performed in them. He also commanded the restoration of the mandatory contributions in the temples of God, which is the 10th portion of everything acquired under the sun, according to the commands of God's covenant with the fathers. All the ordinances of the king were carved on stone, so they could remain for an everlasting law for all living in the country, from the small to the big, from the poor to the rich, regardless of the person is a citizen or the kingdom or not. God the Creator fulfilled his promises. He opened the springs of heavenly treasures, and the waters of the river abundantly were watering the whole country. The abundance and prosperity were overflowing in the whole country, and the kingship of King Tozert, also known as Zoser, was remembered as the golden era in the land of Hemi, which is Egypt. And aren't the many deeds of righteousness of King Tozert written in the books of the chronicles? And after King Tozert died and went to be with his fathers, in his place reigned his son Sikhem. Like his father, Sikhem was a builder of pyramids, but the biggest one was built after him by Hufu, also known as Cheops, I guess you say it. So that was a reading from the Thracian Chronicles in chapter 8, again, Rentance and Retribution. And I wanted to read a couple other verses. I didn't realize that we were reading more than just the highlighted ones here. So there's 4 other verses from the beginning I wanted to read, just so you have a better idea who these people are. And again, Zen covers these as being this ancient race that kept the commandments, and you could see as they had a godly king who the Most High appeared to in visions. And I think it's so cool that we're uncovering all of this material that we didn't have access to previously, and it's being translated into English. I'm really excited for this to actually get into print one day. This is verse 3, so it's just a little bit of historical background of what happened with this king and how the river Nile did not rise as usual, and so everyone was wondering what was going on. So in the 18th year of the reign of King Tozert, the waters of the river Nile did not rise as usual and did not water the land with their life-giving tide. 7 years already, the river Nile did not rise to the necessary level, and more than half the fields remained without water and were drying. There were years of unprecedented famine. The nation was lifting prayers to God for rain and to the king for bread as the famine was getting tougher with each passing day. And the 7th year was the worst, and King Tozert was in complete despair. The famine was so spread out that in all places the people rushed to rob each other. I think Zen wanted me to read this text just because it seems kind of ominous and foreboding as a possibility of what things could be like during the tribulation that's coming. We read about a lot of these things in this Great Commission 3 book, What to Expect, and I truly believe that the Most High has this text available for us now. It looks like Zen is checking the settings here, so hopefully he'll be coming in soon with his microphone, and it'd be great. Please keep Zen in your prayers with his microphone. He gave me some great news earlier today. He said his voice was really strong today, so he was looking forward to doing this show and sharing with all of you. I'm just doing my best to try to fill in until he gets his mic ready. But it looks like I see a lot of people in the chat. I wanted to say hi to everyone, and thank you, Sherry and Tammy, our faithful moderators, for coming in, to keeping everything friendly, and to sharing with others who are new people coming in and making everyone feel so comfortable and friendly. Yeah, I see a note from Sherry. It says, Noble, if Zen's mic doesn't end up working, you could jump in and help Lisa. You know, it's kind of weird because we just got notice earlier today. For those of you who don't know, my son and his wife are expecting a child in less than 2 months. And so they finally found a midwife, and the only time that she could come to meet with them, they plan to give birth here at our house, is at our house today, and she's here right now. So Noble is downstairs asking her all the pertinent questions and things we need to do to get set up. But we'll be meeting with her regularly from now until the due date is March 8th. So I'm so sorry Noble cannot join me, but I'm going to do my best. And thank you, Barbara. I really appreciate saying that, give all the encouragement, guys. I'm looking forward to when Zen can join me. But until then, I'm just going to go ahead and start reading from this book, because some of these texts should be kind of familiar if you followed Zen's channel for a while. Like especially this first one, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on this apocalypse of Abraham, or Avraham. In my life, anyway, this text was actually the first extra biblical that I was even exposed to the content with. And it's hilarious how I was exposed to the content in this book, because in 2014, Noble and I were heavily researching things. We were attending a Messianic congregation. Noble had graduated from his last seminary, getting his last degree, maybe 6 or 7 years prior to this trip we decided to take. But one of his professors was a Hebrew professor, and he was raised in Israel, but he became a follower of the Messiah, which is pretty rare, as you guys know. And he used to do tours to Israel, because since he grew up there, he knew all the back roads, he knew all the places, and since he was Messianic, it was even more meaningful. And he would only take small groups, but he frequented coming to Hawaii, even though he relocated from Israel to the U.S. He loved Hawaii, and so he had a timeshare here, and he would come here every other year and just ask if anyone wanted to come with him to Israel. It was a whole package deal, but he advertised it. It was really attractive to us at the time, because it was a 6-week educational tour of Israel with him narrating everything. And of course, incorporating scripture everywhere we went. We stopped at I think we visited almost every single national park in Israel, which is quite a few. But we were there for 6 weeks. And because Noble already knew Hebrew, he was kind of starting to teach me Hebrew already back then. And so we were reading the signs, and he was pointing out different things that he'd studied when he was taking Hebrew class before. And during one of the speeches that this professor was giving at the different parks, he was talking about Abraham, and he was saying, yes, this would have been the place where Abraham was supposed to sacrifice Isaac. And he said, and there's an interesting story about Abraham that we don't get in the Bible. And for some reason, my ears perked up, even though I had not read any of the ancient manuscripts or extra biblicals at that time yet. And he said, there's a story, and he calls it Jewish legend. He said, in Jewish legend, there's a story about Abraham where he goes to his father's house as an adult, and he sees that his father is the chief idol maker for Nimrod. And he said that when his father wasn't home, Abraham was so upset with the idol room in the father's house that he took an axe and he chopped up all the idols, but he left the largest one standing, and he put the axe in the largest one's hand. And when his father came home and wanted to blame Abraham for doing this, Abraham said, no, father, you're mistaken. Look who's holding the axe. He did it. And that story stuck with me. And I even asked the Jewish professor, I was like, or the Hebrew professor, I said, where did you get that story exactly? Because I want to read the entire rest of that story. I've never heard it before. And this would give more background on Abraham's life, because in the Bible, all we get is that Abraham was a Hebrew and he was a friend of God, and God was sending him out of his father's house to go and sojourn in the land of Canaan. And that's the beginning of the story. We don't get anything about his childhood, anything about what it was like growing up with an idol maker, that we don't get any of that. So that's the first text that I'm going to read here, because it came from the Apocalypse of Avraham, or Abraham, but it's also located in the book of Yasher in the writings of Abraham. That story is pretty popular, but the Hebrew professor would not give me any information on where to find that, except he kept saying, oh no, it's Jewish legend. So then I was so surprised to find it also in the Legends of the Jews. So I didn't even know a book like that existed back then, but thanks to Zen and to others who have dove into the extra biblicals and shared with all of us, we now know where to read that story. So I'm going to be reading, and Thias, Donna, how clever of Abraham, I agree. So anyway, yes, and Sherry, it's extremely exciting that we were going to be having a new family member here in a couple months. I'm excited to meet him or her. We're not doing gender reveals or anything because we all want to be surprised, is what Isaac and Kaylee decided. Okay, so in this Great Commission 3, the Apocalypse of Abraham, or Hebrew, it's Avraham. As we know in the story from Genesis, his name that his father gave him was Avram, which is the father is exalted, and then the Most High changed his name to Abraham, which means father of many peoples. So I think that was a pretty appropriate name to change his name to, because his father was trying to make this like, his son is so exalted. So it was all about his father Terah's pride when the Most High wanted to make him a great nation of his people. And he was definitely a friend of God. So Zen, if there's any luck with your mic yet, brother, we'd love to have you come in. If not, I'm going to go ahead and start reading. So I'm going to wait a couple seconds. Looking at the chat here. See everybody. Yes, thank you so much, Sherry and Tammy, for putting all these links in and for welcoming everybody. And I'm going to start. So it looks like there's 2 different translations that are available from the Apocalypse of Abraham in this book, in the Great Commission 3. And the first translation, both of them say translator unknown. The first translation gives us this first part of the story. And as you will see, as we get further on around chapter 9, there will be 2 parts to the story with 2 different translations of this text. So with that background, I'm going to go ahead and start. This is translation number 1 of the Apocalypse of Abraham, found on page 8 in the Great Commission 3. On the day I was guarding the gods of my father Terah and the gods of my brother Nahor, while I was testing to find out which god in truth was the strongest, then I, Abraham, at the time when my lot came, when I was completing the services of my father Terah's sacrifice to his gods of wood, stone, of gold, silver, copper, and of iron, having entered their temple for the service, I found a god named Marumat, carved from stone, fallen at the feet of the iron god Nakin. And it came to pass that when I saw it, my heart was perplexed, and I thought in my mind that I, Abraham, could not put it back in its place alone, because it was heavy, being made of a big stone. But I went and told my father, and he came in with me, and when we both lifted it to put it in its place, its head fell off, even while I was holding it by its head. And it came to pass, when my father saw that the head of his god Marumath had fallen, he said to me, Abraham. And I said, Here I am. And he said to me, Bring me the axes and chisels from the house. And I brought them to him from the house. And he cut another Marumath from another stone without a head. And he smashed the head that had fallen off Marumath and the rest of Marumath. He made 5 other gods, and he gave them to me, and ordered me to sell them outside on the town road. I saddled my father's donkey and loaded them on it, and went out on the highway to sell them. And behold, merchants from Fundana of Syria were coming with camels, on their way to Egypt to buy cochineal from the Nile. I asked them a question, and they answered me. And walking along, I conversed with them. One of their camels screamed. The donkey took fright and ran away and threw off the gods. 3 of them were crushed, and 2 remained intact. And it came to pass that when the Syrians saw that I had gods, they said to me, Why did you not tell us that you had gods? We would have bought them before the donkey heard the camel's voice, and you had no loss. Give us at least the gods that remain, and we will give you a suitable price. I considered in my heart, and they paid both for the smashed gods and the gods which remained. For I had been grieving in my heart how I would bring payment to my father. I threw 3 broken gods into the water of the river Gur, which was in this place, and they sank into the depths of the river Gur and were no more. As I was still walking on the road, my heart was disturbed and my mind distracted. I said in my heart, what is the inequality of activity which my father is doing? Is it not he rather who is God for his gods? Because they come into being from his sculpting and his skill. They ought to honor my father because they are his work. What is this food of my father and his works? Behold, Marumat fell and could not stand up in his sanctuary, nor could I myself lift him until my father came and we raised him up. And even so, we were not able to do it, and his head fell off of him. And he put it on another stone of another god, which he had made without a head. And the other 5 gods, which got smashed in falling from the donkey, who could not save themselves and injure the donkey because it smashed them, nor did their shards come up out of the river. I said to my heart, if it is so, how then can my father's god Marumat, which has the head of another stone, and which is made from another stone, save a man, or hear a man's prayer, or give him any gift? And thinking thus, I came to my father's house. And I watered the donkey and gave him hay, and I took out the silver and I placed it in the hand of my father Terah. And when he saw it, he was glad, and he said, you are blessed, Abraham, by the God of my gods, since you have brought me the price for the gods, so that my labor was not in vain. And answering, I said to him, listen, Father Terah, the gods are a blessing in you because you are a God for them, and because you made them, for their blessing is their perdition, and their power is vain. They did not help themselves. How then can they help you or bless me? I was good for you in this transaction, for through my good sense I brought you the silver for the smashed gods. And when he heard my speech, he became furiously angry with me, because I had spoken harsh words against his gods. But having pondered my father's anger, I went out. And afterwards, when I had gone out, he called me, saying, Abraham. And I said, here I am. And he said, up, gather wood chips, for I was making gods from before you came, and prepare with them food for my midday meal. And it came to pass, when I was choosing the wood chips, I found among them a small god, which would fit in my left hand. And on its forehead was written, God Barisat. It came to pass when I put the chips on the fire in order to prepare the food for my father, and going out to inquire about the food, I put Barisat near the enkindling fire, saying to him threateningly, Barisat, watch that the fire does not go out before I come back. If the fire goes out, blow on it so it flares up. And I went out and I made my counsel. When I returned, I found Barisat fallen on his back, his feet enveloped by fire and burning fiercely. And it came to pass when I saw it, I laughed and said to myself, Barisat, truly you know how to light a fire and cook food. And it came to pass, while saying this in my laughter, I saw that he burned up slowly from the fire and became ashes. I carried the food to my father to eat. I gave him wine and milk, and he drank, and he enjoyed himself, and he blessed Marumat his god. I said to him, Father Terah, do not bless Marumat your god. Do not praise him. Praise rather Barisat your god, because, as though loving you, he threw himself into the fire in order to cook your food. And he said to me, then where is he now? And I said, he is burned in the fierceness of the fire and become dust. And he said, great is the power of Barisat. I will make another today, and tomorrow he will prepare my food. When I, Abraham, heard words like this from my father, I laughed in my mind, and I groaned in the bitterness and anger of my soul. I said, how then is a figment of a body made by him, which is Terah, an aid for my father? Or can he have subordinated his body to his soul to a spirit, and the spirit to stupidity and ignorance? And I said, it is only proper to endure evil, that I may throw my mind to purity, and I will expose my thoughts clearly to him. I answered and said, Father Terah, whichever of these gods you extol, you err in your thought. Behold, the gods of my brother Nahor, standing in the holy sanctuary, are more venerable than yours. For behold, Zokaios, my brother Nahor's god, is more venerable than your god Marumat, because he is made of gold, valued by man. And If he grows old with time, he will be remolded, whereas Maramot, if he is changed or broken, will not be renewed because he is stone. What about Job, the god and the other god, who stands as Zokaios? For he is also more venerable than the god Barisat. He is carved from wood and forged from silver, because he too is a term of comparison, being valued by man according to external experience. But Barisat, your god, when he was still not carved, rooted in the earth, being great and wondrous, with branches and flowers and praise, but you made him with an axe, and by your skill he was made a god. And behold, he has already dried up, and his fatness has perished. He fell from the height to the earth. He came from greatness to smallness, and the appearance of his face wasted away. And he himself was burned up by the fire, and became ashes, and is no more. And you say, let me make another, and tomorrow he will make my food for me? But in perishing, he left himself no strength for his own destruction. This I say, fire is more venerable in formation, for even the unsubdued things are subdued in it, and it mocks that which perishes easily by means of its burning. But neither is it venerable, for it is subject to the waters, but rather the waters are more venerable than it, or the fire, because they overcome fire and sweeten the earth with fruit. But I will not call them God either, for the waters subside under the earth and are subject to it. But I will not call it a goddess either, for it is dried by the sun and subordinated to man for his work. More venerable among the gods, I say, is the sun, for with its rays it illuminates the whole universe and the various airs. Nor will I place among the gods the one who obscures his course by means of the moon and the clouds. Nor again shall I call the moon or the stars gods, because they too at times during the night dim their light. Listen, Terah, my father, I shall seek before you the God who created all the gods supposed by us to exist. For who is it, or which one is it who made the heavens crimson and the sun golden, who has given light to the moon and the stars with it, who has dried the earth in the midst of the many waters, who set you yourself among the things, and who has sought me out in the perplexity of my thoughts? I, only God, will reveal himself by himself to us. And it came to pass, as I was thinking things like these with regard to my father Terah in the court of my house, the voice of the Mighty One came down from the heavens in a stream of fire, saying and calling, Abraham, Abraham. And I said, here I am. And he said, you are searching for the God of gods, the Creator, in the understanding of your heart. I am he. Go out from Terah, your father, and go out of the house, that you too may not be slain in the sins of your father's house. And it came to pass, as I went out, I was not yet outside the entrance of the court, that the sound of a great thunder came and burned him and his house and everything in his house down to the ground, 40 cubits. All right, so those were the first 8 chapters of this text. And as I was saying at the beginning, there's 2 different translations. I was reading the first translation, which is only the first 8 chapters. It's kind of a little bit separate story from what we get in like the book of Yasher. But I believe the Legends of the Jews combines both of these together. So as I read chapter 9, you will see that there's 2 different translations in this book I'm reading from, the Great Commission 3. And I'm going to read the left column first, which is what I've been reading all this time from the first translation. And then I will go back at the end of this chapter 9, and I'll go back and read the other column, so you can kind of compare and see how these 2 different translations go. Chapter 9. I'm going to take a look at the chat real quick. And I still haven't heard anything from Zen. We're still praying that he will come in. Maybe at break in about 20 minutes, he'll be able to continue testing his mic and will be able to join us. Yes, Tammy George, I am a fast reader. Sorry about that. I'm trying to slow down because I tend to get really hyper when I'm reading these texts because I can't wait to see what happens next. Even though I know what's going to come, I can't help it. I'm so sorry. I'm going to keep trying to slow down a little bit. Let's see. And thank you, Sherry. I haven't had the chance to look up any of these words that are in this text, and I see that you moderators are doing that for me. Thank you so much. All right, so, and yes, Sherry, these are half pages at that, Tammy. So that's why this went so quick, just because I'm only reading one column, which is only one side of the page, but now I will be reading the entire page, so it'll go a little bit slower. I know the 8 chapters went really fast. Okay, so chapter 9, and this is the same translation I've been reading from, and then I'm going to go back and read the other on the right column. Then a voice came speaking to me twice. Oh, I was going to also mention too, in chapter 8, the first encounter that Avraham had with the Most High, in this text anyway, we get other encounters he's had, especially in the writings of Avraham from when he was a young child. And that text is awesome. We should go over that. We read that also in Digital Readers Club a few years ago. And it talks about when Abraham was a child and an angel led him from a cave where he was hiding out from, so he wouldn't be killed from Nimrod in Nimrod's kingdom from when he was born. And he was there with his mother and his nurse. And an angel came, I believe, when he was 3 years old, and led him to Shem and Eber, who were still alive at this time, according to these texts. And they had a specific school that they would educate the patriarchs in the ways of the Most High, the mysteries of the Most High. And he lived there for a number of years, I think until he was over age 50. And he returned to his father's house, and that's when these things happened. So there's a little bit different translations and different viewpoints that are mentioned by the authors of these books, but when you read them all together, it kind of makes sense, although sometimes the timeline is a little bit off, but they're still awesome texts. I really like these. All right, chapter 9. Then a voice came speaking to me twice, Abraham, Abraham, and I said, here I am. And in Hebrew, that's Hineni, if any of you wonder what that is. Here I am is Hineni in Hebrew. And he said, behold, it is I. Fear not, for I am before the world and mighty, the God who created previously before the light of the age. I am the protector for you, and I am your helper. Go, get me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old she-goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a pigeon, and make me a pure sacrifice. And in this sacrifice I will place the ages. I will announce to you guarded things, and you will see great things which you have not seen, because you desired to search for me. And I called you my beloved. But for 40 days abstain from every kind of food cooked by fire, and from drinking of wine, and from anointing yourself with oil. And then you shall set out for me the sacrifice, which I have commanded you, in the place which I will show you on a high mountain. And there I will show you the things which were made by the ages, and by my word, and affirmed, created, and renewed. And I will announce to you in them what will come upon those who have done evil and just things in the race of man. Now, I was going to ask either Sherry or Tammy or anyone in the chat listening, this story is kind of more details than what we get in the book of Genesis. And if somebody could look in Genesis, please, and find the story of when Abraham made that covenant with God or with the Most High, where he had to cut the different animals in half. And that's pretty much what we get in Genesis, of the sacrifice of these animals, and how we're going to read more about that in this text. But I just wanted to have a reference so that if you wonder where the other part of the story is at, or what we get in the book of Genesis, you'd have a reference to it. So if you don't mind, that would be awesome. Anyone in the chat, if you can find that in the book of Genesis, that'd be great. I'm going to read the other translation. That was chapter 9. And I'm going to read the other translation that's in the right column of this text. It's the same story, but just some things are a little bit different. Then a voice came to me speaking twice, Abraham, Abraham, and I said, here I am, or Hineni. And he said, behold, it is I. Fear not, for I am with you, for I am before the ages, even the mighty God who created the first light of the world. I am your shield and your helper. Go, take me a young heifer of 3 years, and a she-goat of 3 years, and a ram of 3 years, a turtle dove and a pigeon, and bring me a pure sacrifice. And in this sacrifice I will lay before you the ages to come, and make known to you what is reserved, and you shall see great things which you have not hitherto seen. Because you have loved to search me out, and I have named you my friend, but abstain from every form which I have commanded you, in the place which I will show you, Oh, I'm sorry. It's reading the wrong column. And abstain from every form of food that comes forth out of the fire, and from the drinking of wine, and from anointing yourself with oil for 40 days. And then set forth for me the sacrifice which I have commanded you, in a place which I will show you on a high mountain. And there I will show you the ages, which have been created and established by my word. And I will make known to you what shall come to pass in them on those who have done evil and righteousness in the generations of men. Now, I noticed too that in this text, it went really quick from chapter 8 to chapter 9. And I think that's why the other translation starts with chapter 9 as their chapter 1, because they're in two different locations, in my opinion, anyway. Because we know Terah did not live in the land of Canaan, but Abraham did. And this event with the sacrifices took place in the land of Canaan after he'd already sojourned there with his entire family, except for his father and his brother Haran, who was burned in the fire. That's how he became the guardian for Lot and Lot's sister, Sarah, which he married, so Abraham's wife. So that's where the second part is taking place, when he's already in the land of Canaan, or Canaan, as in Hebrew. Thank you so much, Sherry. Okay, I knew somebody would come up with this. Genesis 17, she says in the chat, and when Avram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram, and said to him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect, and I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. Thank you so much. So that is the text in Genesis, and this part is amazing. This is the actual apocalypse. And this vision that he has paid special attention to this part, because what I've read so far is just like an introduction for this really awesome part in chapter 10. So I'm going to start reading the first translation in the left column if you're following along here in the Great Commission. And then I'll go back and I'll read the second translation. And it came to pass when I heard the voice pronouncing such words to me that I looked this way and that. And behold, there was no breath of man. And my spirit was amazed, and my soul fled from me. And I became like a stone, and fell face down upon the earth, for there was no longer strength in me to stand up on the earth. And while I was still face down on the ground, I heard the voice speaking, Go, Yoel, of the same name, through the meditation of my ineffable name, consecrate this man for me, and strengthen him against his trembling. The angel he sent to me in the likeness of a man came, and he took me by my right hand and stood me on my feet. And he said to me, Stand up, Abraham, friend of God who has loved you. Let human trembling not enfold you. For lo, I am sent to you to strengthen you and to bless you in the name of God, creator of heavenly and earthly things, who has loved you. Be bold and hasten to him. I am Yoel, and I was called so by him who causes those with me on the seventh expanse, on the firmament, to shake, a power through the medium of his ineffable name in me. I am the one who has been charged, according to his commandment, to restrain the threats of the living creatures of the cherubim against one another. And I teach those who carry the song through the medium of man's night of the seventh hour. I am appointed to hold the Leviathans, or the Leviathans, because through me is subjugated the attack and menace of every reptile. I am ordered to loosen Hades and to destroy those who wondered at the dead. I am the one who ordered your father's house to be burned with him, for he honored the dead. I am sent to you now to bless you, and the land which he, whom you have called the Eternal One, has prepared for you. For your sake I have indicated the way of the land. Stand up, Abraham, go boldly, be very joyful and rejoice. And I also rejoice with you, for a venerable honor has been prepared for you by the Eternal One. Go, complete the sacrifice of the command. Behold, I am assigned to be with you, and with the generation which is predestined to be born from you. And with me, Michael blesses you forever. Be bold, go. All right, that's the first translation of chapter 10. I'm going to go back and do the second translation on the right column. And it came to pass when I heard the voice of him who spoke such words to me, and I looked here and there, I found no breath in me, and my spirit was frightened, and my soul seemed as departed from me, for I fell down as a stone, as a dead man upon the earth, and had no more strength to stand. And while I was thus lying with my face toward the earth, I heard the voice of the Holy One speaking, Go, Yoel, and by means of my ineffable name raise up yonder man and strengthen him, so that he recovers from his trembling. And the angel whom he had sent came to me in the likeness of a man, and grasped me by my right hand, and set me upon my feet, and said to me, Stand up, Abraham, O friend of God who loves you. Let not the trembling of man seize you, for lo, I have been sent to you to strengthen you and bless you in the name of God, who loves you, the creator of the celestial and the terrestrial. Be fearless and hasten to him. I am called Yoel by him who moves those who exist with me on the seventh expanse over the heavens, a power and virtue of the ineffable name that is dwelling in me. I am the one who has been given to restrain, according to his commandment, the threatening attacks of the living ones of the cherubim against one another, and to teach those who carry him the song of the seventh hour of the night of man. I am ordered to restrain the Leviathan, for every single attack and menace of every single reptile are subject unto me. I am him who has been commissioned to loosen Hades and to destroy him who stares at the dead. I have been sent to bless you now, and the land which the Eternal One, whom you have invoked, has prepared for you. And for your sake, I have wended my way upon earth. Stand up, Abraham. Go without fear. Be right, glad, and rejoice. And I am with you. For age-lasting honor has been prepared for you by the Eternal One. Go, fulfill the sacrifices commanded. For lo, I have been appointed to be with you and with the generations that will spring from you, and with me, Michael blesses you forever. Be of good cheer and go. All right, I have a question for all of those of you listening in the chat, and I see that you're putting in here, Yoel is the name of an angel. Thank you, Sherry. The name of an angel in the Apocalypse of Abraham, a pseudographical work. The name is thought to be a combination of the Tetragrammaton and the Hebrew word something El, which means God, Yoel in the text. Now, my question for you is, Yoel has another name, and he gave some clues as to which archangel this actually is that's helping Abraham. The clues can be found in the book of First Enoch, if anybody wants to look for them. I think it's either in chapter 10 or chapter 20, where it gives the archangels and their job descriptions, basically. Look for the archangel who is over the reptiles and over Leviathan, and you will find the other name of this particular angel. Now, we already know it's not Michael, because he said, Michael also blesses you. So it cannot be Michael. But I want to see if anyone in the chat gets this one. What is the other name of Yoel? So we can picture what angel is accompanying Abraham in his tour that is going to be taking him. So look that up, and I'm going to be looking in the chat so you can see. I can see who looked in the book of First Enoch to find it. I'm looking in the chat now to see if there's any other oh yeah. Oh, also too, I think it's kind of funny. He's also over the cherubim, this particular angel. So before I read this text, I always thought like, oh, the angels in heaven, they're holy, they're worshiping the Most High. You know, they don't sin. They're like these perfect beings. But then I read this text and I was like, oh, so he's the one that restrains the angels, the cherubim, when they're basically giving each other dirty looks up in heaven, which I thought was kind of funny. That part just threw me off, and I realized, oh, they do sin in the spirit. You know, he says, I'm the one who has been given to restrain, according to his commandment, the threatening attacks of the living ones of the cherubim against one another, and to teach those who carry him the song of the seventh hour. So I think it's kind of funny. I think that it talks about either later in this text, I know for sure in Legends of the Jews, how he has to be the one that turns the heads of the cherubim from giving each other dirty looks in front of the throne, which I think is hilarious. It's interesting, though, to me. It's just like, wow, I didn't realize that these spiritual beings are actually trying to fight with each other up in the throne room. Like, to me, that was really eye-opening. And then also, too, in the book of Enoch, it talks about over the spirits who sin in the spirit. that's one of the archangel's roles. I see some people are in here putting Uriel, Phanuel, Yophiel. That's interesting. Yeah. These are thank you guys for participating. I'll give the answer after we come back from break. We're going to break in about 1 minute. So, Brother Zen, if you want to test out your mic, or if you want to try it out or anything, that would be awesome. If not, I'm just going to keep going with this and keep reading. This text is awesome. We have a wonderful audience who is very participatory here in the chat. Again, thank you all for hanging out and hanging in there. And yes, I see the right answer coming up here. Rick Smith and DKNY both said Gabriel. And if you look in the book of First Enoch, Gabriel is over paradise, I believe, the Leviathans, and the angels that sin in the spirit, I believe. I have to pull up that text. I'm going to grab that during break, which is coming up in 1 minute. I don't want to start the new chapter until after break. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, I see Dale, actually. Did Hillel rule the reptile kingdom? Very good question. That it looks like Gabriel is over the reptiles because he says so right here in this text. So Hillel would have been, Hillel ben Shakar that we read about in Isaiah 11 and 14, I believe. And that was another name for Lucifer. All right, we'll see you guys after the break. Go get something to drink and talk to you soon.
Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
Is in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.
Tune in to the Family Industrial Complex podcast here on Revolution Radio, Studio B, every Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Get fit, empowered, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Mountain High Time, 2 hours of an organization to the madness, discussing the ever-changing dynamics of being both physically and mentally prepared for a plethora of possible outcomes to our future and present. A look into the latest technologies, new scientific discoveries, and how they might be used in connection to the human domain and controlling it, ancient cultures and places. Be warned, this is an opinionated look through headlines, guests that are not afraid to question the narrative, a little bit of crazy ramblings of a stoner conspiracy factist that pushes constitutional concepts. The place and the time are the same, another dimension we call Mountain High Time. Saturdays 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Mountain High Time, right here on Revolution.radio, where information never sleeps and truth breaks the spell.
Check in every Thursday night for the Crypt Rick and Jonathan Show.
Studio A, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here at the #1 listener-supported radio station, Revolution Radio.
I want to thank everybody for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the one place where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio.
All right, let's show them what we got here.
All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Hey, shalom, everybody. Welcome back from break. That quick break that gave me a little chance to run downstairs and say hi to the midwife. I'm so glad I got to meet her in person. She's really a sweetheart. So yeah, we can continue to pray for her. And she'll be back again. I think she'll be back like every other week from now until my son and his wife give birth in March. So that's what I was doing. And I also grabbed the other text that I was talking about for that question of which angel had that particular job description, also known in this text as Yoel. And you can find that in 1 Enoch chapter 20, where it has the job descriptions of the angels. I'm going to read this to you so that you can have a very clear picture as to which angel is leading Abraham on this journey. So, chapter 20, and these are the names of the holy angels who watch. Oh, and by the way, excuse me, I just was texting with Zen, and he is not able to get his technology working right now. He's going to be working on it this weekend, so he'll be ready to do Digital Readers Club this Saturday. And if you guys would like to join us for that, just a second, let me get some water. We'd love to have you join us in reading on Saturday for Digital Readers Club. Oh my goodness, now I know what Zen feels like when he's reading for an hour. My gosh. But thank you guys for hanging in there with me. I told Zen, I wish you were here doing the show with me, brother, but I'm going to do my best to present this text and to continue reading the Apocalypse of Abraham. So this is before the break, just for those of you just joining us. Before the break, I was discussing and asking you which angel is also known as Yoel, who is just about to lead Abraham on this journey through the heavens. And he gave us some clues. He said he is the angel over the Leviathans, and we know it's not Michael, but there are 7 archangels mentioned in the book of 1 Enoch, chapter 20. And these are the names of the holy angels who watch. Uriel, one of the holy angels, who is set over the world and over Tartarus. So this is like their job description, okay? Raphael, one of the holy angels, who is over the spirits of men. Raguel, one of the holy angels, who takes vengeance on the world of the luminaries. Okay, it doesn't sound like it's any of them, right, so far. Michael, which we know it's not, one of the holy angels, to wit, he that is set over the best part of mankind and over chaos. Okay, there's no mention of Leviathan yet, or the serpents. Sarakel, one of the holy angels who is set over the spirits who sin in the spirit. Okay, that one is a little confusing because this angel also said he was over the cherubim who were trying to fight each other in the throne room. But this one, Gabriel, one of the holy angels who is set over paradise and the serpents and the cherubim. Okay, that one fits because he mentions the serpents and the cherubim as two areas that he is in charge of. So that gives us a clue that it has to be Gabriel. And then the Remiel, one of the holy angels whom Elohim set over those who rise. Okay, so that's just to give you a little background and to show you, and I really appreciate all of those who, gave their guesses out in the chat, and, it could have been any out of the 7, but to me, it has to be Gabriel because there's so many clues that he gave us in this text. All right, so I am on chapter 10. I wanted to see if there's any other notes I want to read here first. And I'm going to be continuing. For those of you just joining us, Zen and I decided to use the book that you guys all voted for us to do next, to cover next, the Great Commission Part 3, which is the End Time Apocalypses. And the first book that is the first manuscript actually located within this book, which you can get at sacredwordpublishing.com, and a bundle even, the Great Commission 1, 2, and 3. This is book 3. I would highly recommend, if you want to participate in the study with us, in order to read along, that you either get the bundle or at least get this book, because this has so many different texts in it we're going to be going through. I read through the table of contents at the very beginning of the show, if you want to rewind and go back to that. And you can just see how this thing is just packed full of all these end time apocalypses. All right, so I'm going to continue with chapter 10. And before break, I mentioned that there's 2 different translations available for starting with chapter 9 and going on to the end of this text. And so I'll be reading both of those. I'm going to start with the left column here in this book, and then I'll go into the right column after I finish the left column of chapter 10. This is page 18. Let me look at the chat real quick. And thank you so much, Zen, which is Zen in the chat is also Justin. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for setting us all up here. And we'll just continue to pray that Zen's technology is working by next week. Okay. Oh, and Barbara, yay, she's got the bundle coming right on. How many of the rest of you actually have this book? I'm wondering, the Great Commission 3. If you want to put that in the chat, like, yes, I have this book and I'm reading along with you, that would be good to know. Pretty sure Sherry's got it, and Tammy, I think Tammy said that she has this book too. Okay, so chapter 10, page 18. And it came to pass, when I heard the voice pronouncing such words to me, that I looked this way and that, and behold, there was no breath of man. And you know what? I just realized I read this chapter already. Okay, next chapter, sorry. Chapter 11. Yoel just introduced himself. I'm on chapter 11. I stood up and saw him who had taken my right hand and set me on my feet. The appearance of his body was like sapphire, and the aspect of his face was like chrysolite, and the hair of his head like snow. And a kedaris was on his head, its look that of a rainbow, and the clothing of his garments was purple, and a golden staff was in his right hand. And he said to me, Abraham. And I said, Here's your servant. And he said, Let my appearance not frighten you, nor my speech trouble your soul. Come with me, and I will go with you, visible until the sacrifice, but after the sacrifice, invisible forever. Be bold and go. Okay, so chapter 11 is pretty short. I'm going to go to the other translation in the right column. And I rose up and saw him who had grasped me by the right hand and set me upon my feet. And the appearance of his body was like sapphire, and the look of his countenance like chrysolite, and the hair of his head like snow, and the turban on his head like the appearance of the rainbow, and the clothing of his garments like purple, and a golden scepter was in his right hand. And he said to me, Abraham. And I said, Here I am, your servant. And he said, Let not my appearance frighten you, nor my speech, that your soul be not troubled. Come with me, and I will be with you, visible until the sacrifice, but after the sacrifice, always invisible. Be of good cheer and come. All right, so we know this is the angel Gabriel. Some people say Gabriel, and this text says Yoel. I know, I love the description too, Donna. It's awesome. Okay, chapter 12. And we went, the two of us, alone together 40 days and nights. And I ate no bread and drank no water, because my food was to see the angel who was with me, and his discourse with me was my drink. We came to God's mountain, glorious Horeb, and I said to the angel, Singer of the Eternal One, behold, I have no sacrifice with me, nor do I know a place for an altar on the mountain. So how shall I make the sacrifice? And he said, Look behind you. And I looked behind me, and behold, all the prescribed sacrifices were following us, the calf, the she-goat, the ram, the turtle dove, and the pigeon. And the angel said to me, Abraham. And I said, Here I am. And he said to me, Slaughter all these and divide the animals exactly into halves, but do not cut the birds apart, and give them to the men whom I will show you standing beside you, for they are the altar on the mountain, to offer sacrifice to the Eternal One. The turtle dove and the pigeon you will give to me, for I will ascend on the wings of the birds to show you what is in the heavens, on the earth and in the sea, in the abyss and in the lower depths, in the Garden of Eden and in its rivers, in the fullness of the universe, and you will see its circles in awe. All right, so that's chapter 12, the first translation. I'm going to the second translation now. And we went, the two of us, together for 40 days and nights. I ate no bread and drank no water, because my food and my drink was to see the angel who was with me and to hear his speech. This reminds me of Zen's testimony he gave last week. It was so awesome, where he saw the two angels in the hospital room that healed, that were part of his healing. It was just so amazing. Just reminded me of that with the food and drink part. And we came to the Mount of God, Mount Horeb, and I said to the angel, Singer of the Eternal One, I have no sacrifice with me, nor am I aware of the place of an altar on the mountain. How can I bring a sacrifice? And he said to me, Look around you. And when I looked around, there following us were all the prescribed animals, the young heifer, the she-goat, the ram, the turtle dove, and the pigeon. And the angel said to me, Abraham. And I said, Here am I, or Hineni. And he said, Slaughter all these animals and divide them into halves, the one against the other, but do not sever the birds. And give these to the men whom I will show you, standing by you, for these are the altar upon the mountain, to offer a sacrifice to the Eternal. But the turtle dove and pigeon give to me, for I will ascend upon the wings of the bird, so that you may be able to see in the heavens, and upon earth, and in the sea, and in the abyss, in the underworld, and in the Garden of Eden, and in its Garden of Eden and its rivers. I'm sorry, and I read the other translation. In the fullness of the whole world and its circle, you shall gaze into them all. Wouldn't that be an amazing trip to have? Like, it's just awesome to see all these things. The rivers of Eden, everything. He got to see a lot of things similar to Enoch. Like, Enoch's was very much more detailed, but Abraham got to see it in this vision as well. It's so cool. All right, I'm looking at any questions. I see Dale is asking a couple of Sheol's the abyss. Sheol is the holding compartments. When people pass away, they go to Sheol. The abyss is where the fallen angels are locked up into. And yes, Sherry, I got chilly bumps too. So we're going to read about his tour here. All right. We are on chapter 13, page 22 of the Great Commission 3. And I did everything according to the angel's command, and I gave the angels who had come to us the divided parts of the animals. And the angel, Yoel, took the 2 birds. And I waited for the evening gift. An unclean bird flew down on the carcasses. I drove it away, and the unclean bird spoke to me and said, What are you doing, Abraham, on the holy heights, where no one eats or drinks, nor is there upon them food for men? So this is that evil bird talking. But these all will be consumed by fire, and they will burn you up. Leave the man who is with you and flee, for if you ascend to the height, they will destroy you. Okay, now remember, the Most High has not given us the spirit of what? This bird is giving the spirit of fear. So we know that this one is not from the Most High. And it came to pass, when I saw the bird speaking, I said this to the angel, What is this, my lord? And he said, This is disgrace. This is Azazel. And he said to him, Shame on you, Azazel, for Abraham's portion is in heaven, and yours is on the earth. For you have selected here and become enamored of the swelling place of your blemish. Therefore, the eternal ruler, the mighty one, has given you a dwelling on earth. Through you, the all-evil spirit is a liar, and through you are wrath and trials on the generations of men who live impiously. For the eternal mighty one did not allow the bodies of the righteous to be in your hand. So through them, the righteous life is affirmed, and the destruction of ungodliness. Here, counselor, be shamed by me. You have no permission to tempt all the righteous. Depart from this man. You cannot deceive him, because he is the enemy of you and of those who follow you and who love what you wish. For behold, the garment which is heaven was formerly yours, has been set aside for him, and the corruption which was on him has gone over to you. I'm sure Azazel did not like to hear that, but it's so good that the angel Yoel was right there to tell him off. Okay, that's the end of chapter 13 for the first translation. I'm going to go into the second translation here. Okay, and I'm very sorry. I just did something in the chat. I'm so sorry. One of the messages got deleted. Okay, I'm looking over here. Thank you, Sherry, for putting up that Sheol is the Hebrew word for the realm of the dead. Thank you very much for distinguishing that between the abyss. And my apologies to Dale. I just tapped the chat and something happened to your last comment there, Dale. Sorry about that. Okay, so that was chapter 13. And we have Azazel. For those of you who don't know who Azazel is, we get one mention of Azazel in the Old Testament in the Bible, and not every translation translates it as Azazel. It's in the book of Leviticus. Maybe one of you in the chat can put that exact address in there for Leviticus. I'm so sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head. I think it's Leviticus 13, but in most Bible translations, it's translated as scapegoat, but I believe it's the NASB has it as Azazel, and possibly the NIV. But you can always find it in the notes at the bottom. You know how the Bible will have notes located in the bottom to make things more clear. And in the notes in the Bibles, it says at the bottom, the scapegoat is Azazel. For those of you who don't know who Azazel is, you can always refer to the book of Enoch, where it gives a very huge description about who Azazel is. And I believe that that's why the translators of our modern day Bible don't really like to put that name into the text, because they did not include the book of Enoch in our modern Bibles to explain who this Azazel character is. But if you look in the book of Enoch, chapter 8, it tells us exactly who Azazel is and what he did to teach men on earth of how to kill each other, basically. And Zen has brought this out before, that Azazel is similar to, also known as Gabriel in the book of Enoch, the angel who deceived Eve. And we're going to see that more as we get into this text and make that connection as well. But in 1 Enoch chapter 8, verse 1, it says, Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, bracelets, ornaments, the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones and all coloring tinctures. Okay, so also you have to make sure that you're aware that it says Azazel taught men to make swords, because they taught the women other hidden things they weren't supposed to teach them back here. And this occurrence happened on in the days of Jared, when the fallen angels descended onto Mount Hermon and they made the oath, and that entire story is in the book of 1 Enoch as well, if you want to take a look there. But notice that it says he taught men to beautify their eyelids. Okay, that kind of gives us an idea of where that was going, right? Putting on makeup and trying to deceive as to look like women. That's something that's going on in modern days right now. Okay, don't get me started on that, as Tammy George knows. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go into continuing to read here. Let's see. This is the other translation for chapter 13. And I did everything according to the command of the angel. And I gave the angels who had come to us the divided animals, but the angel Yoel took the birds. Yoel, sorry. And I waited until the evening sacrifice, and there flew an unclean bird down upon the carcasses, and I drove it away. And the unclean bird spoke to me and said, Abraham, what are you doing upon these holy heights, where no man eats or drinks, nor is there upon them the food of man? But these heavenly beings consume everything with fire and will burn you up. Forsake the man who is with you and flee. For if you ascend into the heights, they will make an end of you. And it came to pass, when I saw the bird speak, I said to the angel, What is this, my lord? And he said, This is ungodliness. This is Azazel. And he said to it, Disgrace upon you, Azazel, for Abraham's lot is in heaven, but yours is upon the earth. Because you have chosen and loved this for the dwelling place of your uncleanness, therefore the eternal mighty Lord made you to be a dweller upon the earth. And through you every evil spirit of lies, and through you wrath and trials for the generations of ungodly men. For God, the eternal mighty one, has not permitted that the bodies of the righteous should be in your hand, in order that thereby the life of the righteous and the destruction of the unclean may be assured. Hear this, my friend, and be gone with shame from me, for it has not been given to you to play the tempter in regard to all the righteous. Depart from this man. You cannot lead him astray. He is an enemy to you and to those who follow you and love what you desire. For behold, the vesture which is in heaven was formerly yours, has been set aside for him, and the mortality which was his has been transferred to you. Amen. I'm so excited about that part because this angel really told him off, and he was there too, I'm sure, because in what happened when Adam was created, we can go back a little bit, and when Adam was created, this particular angel would not bow to him like the Most High commanded them to, and he rebelled. He was cast out of heaven, and that's why he was on earth just waiting to sneak into the Garden of Eden and deceive Eve. So that was that story. Okay, chapter 14. Let me see in the chat. Does anyone have? Yes, and I totally agree, Dale. The Nephilim, yeah, they were like paper white, kind of like we see the royals of Earth today who claim to have the divine right to rule because of their ancestors, the fallen angels. They look very similar to them, but they use all kinds of stuff to try to make themselves look not quite so paper white. Let's see here. Okay, yes, Donna, Gabriel, I believe Gabriel is mentioned in the book of First Enoch as the angel who deceived Eve. And I will pull that scripture up in a little bit here, sister. So there's several different names for different angels, depending on the translation that you're reading or depending on the manuscript. So it's kind of a little bit tricky to put them together, but you can kind of figure out who they are, just like who we figured out Yoel was, just from the hints that they give as to what areas they're over, or if they were in the garden, they weren't in the garden. That whole narrative is really important to keep in mind. All right, chapter 14. A second, I'm going to get a quick drink here. All right. And the angel said to me, Abraham, and I said, Hineni, or here I am, your servant. And he said, know from this that the Eternal One, whom you have loved, has chosen you. Be bold and do through your authority whatever I order you against him who reviles justice. Will I not be able to revile him who has scattered about the earth the secrets of heaven, and who has taken counsel against the Mighty One? Say to him, may you be the firebrand of the furnace of the earth. Go, Azazel, into the untrodden parts of the earth, for your heritage is over those who are with you, with the stars and with the men born by the clouds, whose portion you are. Indeed, they exist through your being. Enmity is for you a pious act. Therefore, through your own destruction, be gone from me. And I said the words as the angel had taught me, and he said, Abraham. And I said, here I am, your servant. And the angel said to me, answer him not. And he spoke to me a second time. And the angel said, now, whatever he says to you, answer him not, lest his will run up to you. For the eternal mighty one gave him the gravity and the will. Answer him not. And I did what the angel had commanded me, and whatever he said to me about the descent, I answered him not. So that's good. He listened. All right, that's the first translation of chapter 14. Here's the second one. And the angel said to me, know that from henceforth the Eternal One has chosen you. Be of good courage and use this authority so far as I bid you against him who slanders the truth. Should I not be able to put him to shame who has scattered over the earth the secrets of heaven and has rebelled against the Mighty One? Say to him, become the burning coal of the furnace of the earth. Go, Azazel, into the inaccessible parts of the earth, for your heritage is to be over those who are with you, the ones brought forth with the stars and clouds, and with the men whose portion you are, even those who exist on account of your being. Justification shall be your enemy. Now depart from me by your perdition. And I uttered the words the angel taught me. And then the angel said to me, answer him not, for God has given him power over those who answer him. And the angel spoke to me again, saying, however much he speak to you, answer him not, in order that he may have no free access to you, because the Eternal One has given him weight and will in this respect. And I did that which was commanded me by the angel. And no matter how much he spoke to me, I answered him nothing whatsoever. I think that's important too, when we are encountering and doing spiritual battle. If we have unclean spirits trying to speak with us, we don't want to join in conversation with them. That's not a smart thing to do. And because these very reasons, the angel's telling Abraham, who had no idea, and he said, just don't even talk to him, don't even acknowledge him. You know, you can rebuke him out. That's what we're taught to do in New Testament books, but don't have a discourse with them, don't have a conversation. And I also think this part in this chapter is interesting about where he's describing all of those who have their lot with Azazel. Or he said, let's see, or he says, let me go back in here. He said, be of good courage, use this authority against him who slanders the truth. And he casts Azazel out. He says, go away, Azazel. He said, your heritage is over those who are with you, with the stars, with the clouds, and with the men whose portion you are, even those who exist on account of your being. Who's he talking about there? That like really caught me. For those who exist on account of your being. Who is he talking about there? To me, he is talking about offspring, because they would not exist if Azazel had not fathered them, which is what I'm getting at. They would not exist if Azazel had not descended, or actually if Azazel had not started with Eve producing Cain, and then if Azazel had not led the entire rebellion to descend onto Mount Hermon and make the oath to take wives and have their own sons, which were half angel, half angelic angel, or even more so, even a higher percentage. I think Zen and I have talked about 2/3 of percentage, because the women they chose were already daughters of Cain or offspring of Cain. So they already had that fallen angel seed in them. So it would have been a higher percentage than 50%. But that's the only thing that I can think of that would say even those who exist on account of your being. So I think he's talking about the offspring of the giants as well. Those who have a very high serpent seed DNA and who are rulers of earth even at this time. And they're proud of it. I mean, they trace their genealogies all the way to, well, we have the rulers and leaders, the what so-called elite, or the Elites, as Gary Wayne likes to say. It's kind of ironic that they call themselves that, because El is like another name for gods or God. Anyway, let's see. And yes, Eve was beguiled. Eve and Azazel, or Gabriel, or Satan produced Cain, the firstborn son of Satan. I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions in here I should address. Okay, thank you guys so much for participating in the chat. I really appreciate all of you. All right, so we're going to go on here to chapter 15. I'm going to get a drink really quick. All right, chapter 15. And this is the first translation. And it came to pass when the sun was setting, and behold, a smoke like that of a furnace, and the angels who had divided portions of the sacrifice ascended from the top of the furnace of smoke. And the angel took me with his right hand and set me on the right wing of the pigeon. And he himself sat on the left wing of the turtle dove, both of which were as of neither slaughtered nor divided. And he carried me up to the edge of the fiery flames. And we ascended as if carried by many winds to the heaven that is fixed on the expanses. And I saw in the air, to whose height we had ascended, a strong light, which cannot be described. And behold, in this light a fiery Gehenna was enkindled, and a great crowd in the likeness of men. They were all changing in aspect and shape, running and changing form, and prostrating themselves and crying words I did not know. Wow, they were like shape-shifting. All right, next translation, chapter 15. And it came to pass when the sun went down, behold, there was the smoke as of a furnace. And the angels who had the portions of the sacrifice ascended from the top of the smoking furnace. And the angel took me with his right hand and set me upon the right wing of the pigeon. Every time I read that word, I'm thinking, no, the pigeon's name is not Stephen. Okay. And set himself on the left wing of the turtle dove, neither of which birds had been slaughtered. And he bore me to the borders of the flaming fire, and we ascended upon many winds to the heavens which were above the firmament. And I saw in the air on the heights to which we ascended a strong light impossible to describe. And within the light a fiercely burning fire of people, many people, of male appearance, all constantly changing in aspect and form, running and being transformed and worshiping and crying with a sound of words that I could not recognize. So they're speaking some different languages there. It's very interesting here. All right, so that was chapter 15. He's looking at the expanses, and he's looking up at in this light, the fiery Gehenna, and he saw this great crowd. It's just amazing. It's just like, and this is all right during the sacrifice, right when the sun went down. In the book of Genesis, we only get like when the sun went down, then he had this vision, but Genesis doesn't tell us about the vision and all these details we get here. So I just feel so blessed that we are able to read these manuscripts and understand more of what visions of the patriarchs saw. All right, chapter 16, first translation. And I said to the angel, why is it you now brought me here? For now I can no longer see, because I am weakened and my spirit is departing from me. And he said to me, remain with me, do not fear. He whom you will see coming directly toward us in a great sound of sanctification is the Eternal One who has loved you. You will not look at him himself, but let your spirit not weaken, for I am with you, strengthening you. Right, so that was chapter 16, first translation. This is the second translation. And I said to the angel, why have you now brought me up here? Because my eyes cannot see distinctly, and I am growing weak, and my spirit is departing from me. And he said to me, remain close by me and do not fear, for the one whom you cannot see is now coming toward us with a great voice of holiness, even the Eternal One who loves you. But you yourself cannot see him. But you must not allow your spirit to grow faint on account of the choirs of those who cry out, for I am with you to strengthen you. So it's so nice. The angel is just encouraging Abraham. Thank you, Sherry, for pulling up the scripture. Leviticus 1:14. I like this one. And if the burnt sacrifice for his offering to the Lord be of fowls, then he shall bring his offering of turtle doves or of young pigeons on to say the priest will not divide. Oh, goes on to say, yeah, I like that because it kind of backs up what happened even before, the Levites or before the nation of Israel was established, when it was just Avraham here. And he's already having him not divide these birds, and they're using them to soar up into the heavens. It's pretty cool. All right. We're on chapter 17, first translation. And while he was still speaking, behold, the fire coming toward us round about, and a voice was in the fire like a voice of many waters, like the voice of the sea in its uproar. And the angel knelt down with me and worshipped, and I wanted to fall face down on the earth. And the place of highness on which we were standing now stopped on high, and it now rolled down low. And he said, Only worship, Abraham, and recite the song which I taught you. Since there was no ground to which I could fall prostrate, I only bowed down, and I recited the song which he had taught me. And he said, recite without ceasing. And I recited, and he himself recited the song. So this is a really cool song. You know, I've always been interested in seeing what it would be like to use even just parts of the song when doing spiritual warfare and just to feel comforted. So if you have this text, this song is right in here. This is what the angel taught Abraham to sing. Eternal One, Mighty One, Holy El, God Autocrat, self-originate, incorruptible, immaculate, unbegotten, spotless, immortal, self-perfected, self-devised, without mother, without father, ungenerated, exalted, fiery, just, lover of men, benevolent, compassionate, bountiful, jealous over me, patient one, most merciful, Eli, eternal, mighty one, holy Sabaoth, most glorious El, Yoel, you are he my soul has loved, my protector, eternal, fiery, shining, light-giving, thunder-voiced, lightning-visioned, many-eyed, receiving the petitions of those who honor you, and turning away from the petitions of those who restrain you by the restraint of their provocations. Redeemer of those who dwell in the midst of the wicked ones, of those who are dispersed among the just of the world, in the corruptible age. Showing forth the age of the just, you make the lights shine before the morning light upon your creation, from your face, to spend the day on earth. And in your heavenly dwelling place there is an inexhaustible light of an invincible dawning from the light of your face. Accept my prayer and delight in it, and accept also the sacrifice which you yourself made to yourself through me as I searched for you. Receive me favorably, teach me, show me, and make known to your servant what you have promised me. I think it's so beautiful, such a beautiful prayer that the angel taught Abraham. So I'm going to read the other translation of this, chapter 17. And while he was thus speaking, fire came all about us, and there was a voice within the fire, like the sound of many waters. I want to comment on that. The sound of many waters. It's this loud, loud noise that it seems to accompany when the Most High is approaching or is about to speak, like when he was speaking to Job or to Moses. It's never this quiet thing. It's like this loud rushing noise with lightning included and the sound of the sea and violent motion, it says here. So it's not a quiet thing when the Most High speaks. And I desired to fall down there and worship. And I saw that the angel who was with me bowed his head and worshipped. But the surface of the high place where I seemed to be standing changed its inclination constantly, rolling as the great waves on the surface of the sea. And the angel said, worship, Abraham, and utter the song which I shall now teach you. Utter it without ceasing, that is, without pause, and one continuous strain from beginning to end. And the song which he taught me to sing had words appropriate to that sphere in which we then stood. For each sphere in heaven has its own song of praise, and only those who dwell there know how to utter it. And those upon earth cannot know or utter it except they be taught by the messengers of heaven. And the words of that song were of this import and signification. Eternal, mighty, holy El, God, only supreme. You who are self-originated, immaculate, unbegotten, spotless, immortal, self-perfected, self-devised, self-illuminating, without father, without mother, unbegotten, exalted, fiery one, lover of men, benevolent one, bountiful one, jealous over me, and very compassionate, Eli, my God, eternal, Jehovah Sabaoth, very glorious, El, Yael. You are the one whom my soul has loved, eternal protector, shining like fire, whose voice is like the thunder, whose look is like the lightning. You are the all-seeing one, who receives the prayers of all such as honor you, and turn away the requests of those who embarrass you with their provocations, who dissolve the confusion of the world, which arise from the ungodly and the righteous mixed up in the confusion of the corruptible age. And renewing the age of the righteous, shine, O Lord, shine as a light, even as that light with which you clothed yourself on the first day of creation. Shine as the light of the morning on your creatures, and let it be day upon earth. For in these heavenly dwelling places there is no need of any other light than the unspeakable splendor from the light of your countenance. O answer my prayer, be well pleased with it. O accept my sacrifice which you have prepared for me to offer. Accept me favorably and show me, teach me all that you have promised. So that's a beautiful song. I just think it's so awesome. The angel had Abraham repeat this and to recite this. And we're going to see what happens in the next chapter as he's reciting this song. But please keep this in mind. If you can't think of what to say or you just want to give praise to the Most High, this is a really good thing. I mean, it's from heaven, and it was given to the patriarch, Abraham, by the angel himself. All right, I'm going to get a quick drink of water. I'm looking at the chat here. Thank you, Sherry, for putting up verses. I really appreciate that. And yes, I totally agree with her Isaiah passage, Isaiah 45:17, Sherry put in there. It's a very good one that goes right along with this text. All right, so those were two different translations of that song, and we are in chapter 18 of the Apocalypse of Abraham, or in Hebrew, Avraham, as I say once in a while. Okay, first translation. And as I was still reciting the song, the mouth of the fire which was on the firmament was rising up on high. And I heard a voice like the roaring of the sea, and it did not cease from the plenitude of the fire. And as the fire rose up, soaring to the highest point, I saw under the fire a throne of fire, and the many-eyed ones round about, reciting the song. Under the throne, 4 fiery living creatures singing. And the appearance of each of them was the same, each having 4 faces. And this was the aspect of their faces. And this should sound familiar to everyone that's read the book of Daniel or the book of Revelation. Of a lion, of a man, of an ox, and of an eagle. Each one had 4 heads on its body. So the 4 living creatures had 16 faces. And each one had 6 wings, 2 on the shoulders, 2 halfway down, and 2 at the loins. When the wings which were on their shoulders, with the wings on their shoulders, they covered their faces. With the wings at their loins, they clothed their feet. And they would stretch the 2 middle wings out and fly. And when they finished singing, they would look at one another and threaten one another, which I think is interesting. And it came to pass when the angel who was with me, we know this is Gabriel, also known as Yoel, saw that they were threatening each other, he left me and went running to them. And he turned the face of each living creature from the face which was opposite it, so they could not see each other's faces, threatening each other. And he taught them the song of peace, which the Eternal One has in himself. And while I was still standing and watching, I saw behind the living creatures a chariot with fiery wheels. Each wheel was full of eyes round about, and above the wheels was the throne which I had seen. And it was covered with fire, and the fire encircled it round about, and an indescribable light surrounded the fiery crowd. And I heard the voice of their sanctification like the voice of a single man. All right, so that's chapter 18, the first translation. This is the second translation. And while I was still reciting the song, the mouth of the fire which was on the surface rose up on high. I heard a voice like the roaring of the sea, nor did it cease on account of the rich abundance of the fire. And as the fire raised itself up, ascending into the heights, I saw under the fire a throne of fire, and round about it the watchfulness of many eyes, even the all-seeing ones reciting their song, and under the throne 4 fiery living ones singing. And their appearance was one, and each one had 4 faces, and such was the appearance of their countenance, that each one had the face of a lion, a man, an ox, and an eagle. And because of their 4 heads on their bodies, they had 16 faces. And each one had 3 pairs of wings, from their shoulders, from their sides, and from their loins. And with the wings from their shoulders, they covered their faces. With the wings from their loins, they covered their feet, while the two middle wings were spread out for flying straight forward. And it came to pass that when they had ended their singing, they looked at one another and threatened one another. And it came to pass that when the angel who was with me saw they were threatening each other, he left me and went running to them, and turned the countenance of each one away from the countenance immediately facing him, in order they might not look upon each other. And he began to teach them the song of peace, which has its origin in the Eternal One. And as I stood alone and looked, I saw behind the living ones a chariot with fiery wheels, each wheel full of eyes round about, and over the wheels was the throne which I had seen, and which was covered with fire. And the fire encircled it round about, and lo, an indescribable fire contained a mighty fiery host, and I heard its holy voice like the voice of a man. Okay, so we're getting a description of a bunch of different heavenly beings here. I recognize the ones they have. Actually, it's a little different. The 4 heads on the body, that's usually the cherubim. Although it's interesting with the 6 wings, the 2 on the shoulders, 2 halfway down, and 2 at the loins, that seems like more of a seraphim quality. So, but we also get the living beings beneath the throne in the throne room described as this in Revelation, although it doesn't say exactly how many wings they have, or if they have wings at all. But isn't it interesting too of how he's seeing wheels, he's seeing these heavenly beings, he's seeing the fiery chariot with the wheels. And all this time, if we've only read the Bible, we think that only Daniel and Ezekiel were the first ones to see these visions. But little did we know that their ancestor Abraham saw these first, or one of the first anyway, because we know Enoch saw this too as well. He had visions of the throne room. Okay, so I'm going to go on to chapter 19. I'm going to get a quick drink and I'm going to look at the chat. And yes, you're right, Sherry. I was actually going to mention Gary Wayne. I think Gary has a pretty interesting research that he's done on the 4 heads, being the lion, the eagle, the ox, and the man, because he's saying, which makes total sense to me anyway. Gary Wayne said in the last Ask Me Anything that we did, where he was describing why the different idols of the different cults, like the bull cult, they use the ox. They have a lion cult that worships the lion, and we see the lion that's on the royal seal. Even today, they have the lion and the unicorn. We see the eagle, also the eagle-headed Egyptian gods, and it's just they can't come up with something original on their own. They always have to use what is the Most High's creation, and then they corrupt it into being their own gods. And yes, Kyle, I agree. Those 4 beasts are tribal ensigns as well. So, there's the holy part, and then there's the evil part that's corrupted by Azazel and all of his minions, right? Okay, we're going to go on to the next chapter here. What are we looking at? Okay, we have about 7 minutes left until the end of the show, so I'm going to try to get through maybe at least one more chapter, chapter 19, where the Most High is speaking to Abraham. So I'm going to start with the first translation. And a voice came to me out of the midst of the fire, saying, Abraham, Abraham. And I said, Hineni, or here I am. And he said, look at the expanses which are under the firmament, to which you have now been directed, and see that on no single expanse is there any other but the one whom you have searched for, or who has loved you. While he was still speaking, behold, the expanses under me, the heavens opened, and I saw in the 7th firmament upon which I stood a fire spread out, and a light and dew, and a multitude of angels, and a host of the invisible glory. And up above the living creatures I had seen, I saw no one else there. And I looked from on high where I was standing downward to the 6th firmament, and I saw there a multitude of spiritual angels, incorporeal, carrying out the orders of the fiery angels who were on the 8th firmament, as I was standing on its elevation. And lo, neither on this firmament was there in any shape any other host, but only the spiritual angels. And the host I saw in the 7th firmament commanded the 6th firmament, and it removed itself. I saw there on the 5th firmament a host of stars, and the orders they were commanded to carry out, and the elements of earth obeying them. Just so interesting that the military always has to copy, right? So where was the first heavenly army of heavenly hosts? They're up in the firmaments, and they're up in the throne room, and they're carrying out in the different levels of heaven, carrying out all the orders given by the Most High. He's definitely a God of order. Okay, second translation. And a voice came to me out of the midst of the fire, saying, Abraham, Abraham. And I answered, saying, Here am I, or Hineni. And he said, Consider the expanses which are under the firmament on which you are now placed, and see how on no single expanse is there any other than the one whom you have sought, even the one who loves you. And while he was yet speaking, the expanses opened, and there below me were the heavens. And I saw upon the seventh firmament upon which I stood a fire widely extended, and the light which is the treasury of life, and the dew with which God will awaken the dead, and the spirits of the departed righteous, and the spirits of those souls who have yet to be born, and judgment and righteousness, peace and blessing, and an innumerable company of angels, and the living ones, and the power of the invisible glory that sat above the living ones. And I looked downwards from the mountain on which I stood to the sixth firmament, and there I saw a multitude of angels of pure spirit, without bodies, whose duty was to carry out the commands of the fiery angels who were upon the seventh firmament, as I was standing suspended over them. And behold, upon the sixth firmament there were no other powers of any form, save only the angels of pure spirit. And he commanded that the sixth firmament should be removed from my sight. And I saw there on the fifth firmament the powers of the stars, which carry out the commands laid upon them, and the elements of the earth obeyed them. And that's so interesting to think of the stars like that, because we know in Hebrew, the same word for stars, kokav, is also the same word for angels, and not the messenger angels, which are the melachim, but the kokavim is both stars and angels. And here it's mentioning the stars that having certain duties to carry out. And we also get in the book of Jude about the stars and how there were planets, that the ones that we call planets were the stars, the wandering stars, and they had to wander because they did not exit and go into the firmament and come out at their appointed time. So they were being punished like for all eternity to just wander about and not have a place in the firmament. Okay, I'm just checking at the text here. It's great. I see Zen in the chat. Zen, good to see you, brother. Hopefully by this weekend we'll get your microphone fixed so that you can join us to read in Digital Readers Club. Wanted to invite all of you, if you'd like to read with us, we're reading the Legends of the Jews in Digital Readers Club on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on this channel. We'll be there in a few days, all reading together, and anyone's welcome to join. It's a great text. There's so much insight brought forth, and if you'd like to read with us, you can get a link from within the chat on Saturday, and then you can join us reading on Discord. And I'm so glad I joined this Digital Readers Club several years ago, and I've just learned so much through everybody's sharing. Okay, so that was that chapter, and wanted to see if there's anything else to touch on here. So in other words, the Most High removed different firmaments so that Abraham, it sounds like, could see like through the different firmaments to see what was going on each level, because he really wanted him to grasp like what it was like to operate within the heavens, the heavenly realm. Chapter 20 is pretty short. We have about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to read chapter 20 and just thank everyone for joining in with us today and for being so patient with me. Thank you again. Chapter 20, first translation. And the eternal mighty one said to me, Abraham, Abraham. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Look from on high at the stars which are beneath you, and count them for me, and tell me their number. And I said, When can I? For I am a man. And he said to me, As the number of the stars and their power, so shall I place for your seed the nations and men, set apart for me in my lot with Azazel. And I said, Eternal and mighty one, let your servant speak before you, and let your fury not rage against your chosen one. Behold, before you led me up, Azazel insulted me. How then, since he is not now before you, did you establish yourself with them? Okay, so this is the second translation. And the eternal mighty one said to me, Abraham, Abraham. And I said, Here am I, or Hineni. And he said to me, "Consider from above the stars which are beneath you, and number them for me, and make known to me their number." And I said, "How can I? For I am but a man of the dust of the earth." And he said to me, "As the number of the stars and their power, so will I make your seed a nation and a people set apart for me as my own inheritance, as distinct from that of Azazel. And yet I include Azazel in my house." And I said, "O eternal mighty one, let your servant speak before you, and let not your anger be kindled against your chosen one. For lo, before I came up here, Azazel inveighed against me. How then, while he is not now before you, can you constitute yourself with him?" To me, that's a very good question. I feel like I would have asked that too. I'm looking here in the chat. All right. Okay, we have 1 minute left, so I'm going to end on that question, and you'll have to join Zen and I as we continue studying this book. I'm not sure when our next study will be. I think it'll be in a few weeks, but we'll be continuing to read through this Apocalypse of Abraham, which is located in the Great Commission 3, which is available at sacredwordpublishing.com. And this is the end time apocalypses. And Zen and I thought that these would be very pertinent to go through in this time, as there's been so many things that the evil one has tried to put on earth as being chaotic. He's influenced the rulers of the earth, and we just pray against him and all his evil ways. We are now at the end of the show, so thank you guys for all joining us. We will see you Saturday at Digital Readers Club. Everyone be blessed. We love you all. Good night.
This broadcast, we appreciate all of you and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.
When Justin and I found out we were having a little girl, we named her Eliana and started to take her, what we would teach her, and of course, what we would read to her. One day we walked around a bookstore looking for books we might want for her and found nothing. So we started brainstorming what exactly we would want. Even from a young age, we wanted her to know and understand the heart of God and hidden truths that are in ancient biblical manuscripts like the Book of Enoch, and the idea of the Prophecy for Children series was born. Justin got hard to work, and praise Yah released the Prophecy for Children series. We are grateful for the support and amazing feedback from others who have been wanting the same for their children. With our newest addition to the family, Ezra, we also added Enoch's Judgment of the Giants to this prophecy series. We're excited to keep writing books for our children to share with our truth-seeking family. To order these books today, please check out sacredwordpublishing.com/collections/children's-store.
Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.